Hello everybody, Marcia back today with a Pebbles layout to share with you today. So for this layout, I used the Silhouette Design Studio to design the format of my layout with all of these triangles. And I'm using the Silhouette sketch pens to then sketch out the triangles on my background paper so that I'll remember where the triangles go once I have them cut. So part of this design included some places where I wanted to do some machine stitching. So I had moved those triangles off to one side before I did the sketch pens. So now I've cut out all of the triangles with the different pattern papers I wanted to use. I wanted more masculine colors for this. So from the Hey Hello collection, which is Jen Hadfield's newest collection, I picked out the black pattern papers, the blue, the greens, things that would be more outdoorsy to suit my photo. It's I guess masculine week at Pebbles, and I was tasked to do a layout about guys. And that's really hard to do when most of the paper is pinks and there's lots of flowers. Um, this was a little bit difficult to do. So once I had my pattern papers picked out, I want to create a watercolor background to go behind those triangles and my photo to set them off more. I guess you saw earlier I trimmed even my photo into a triangle to keep the triangle theme going in my layout. My go-to shapes for guys are stars and triangles. Alright, so let me explain what I'm doing here. I am using something new. These are called Magicals, and they're from Lindy's Stamp Gang. And this is my first time trying them. So I put some gesso down on my heavy cardstock. I use extra heavy cardstock when I'm doing mixed media backgrounds. And because I had the gesso on the background, I knew I could do the blending on top of the gesso. And so you can just, these are like powdered pigments, and you can just drop just a little tiny bit of pigment onto your paper, spray it with water, and spread it around to get whatever results you want. So here I just added just a little bit more color and added some more water from my mister, and it creates a really beautiful watercolor background. Really easy to do. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think what I might like to try next time is to blend on a piece of acrylic or plastic packaging paper and then applying to a background without gesso. Because the gesso kept the color mostly on top and it took a long time to dry. And I had a little bit of issues with bleeding from my sketch pens. I think if I were to do this again, I would use a pencil and not the sketch pens, because you can see on the yellow I did go back and dab out where the sketch pens had bled, so it's not so obvious. So now I'm going to adhere down my photo. I'm putting some foam adhesive and recycling some chipboard on the back of my photo to make it pop up a little bit from the background. I do want to do some machine stitching on here, so I want to get an idea of where that stitching should go. So some of my triangles need to be adhered to the background for me to do that. So before I adhere down some of these darker pieces with the black, I like to go around the edge of the papers with a black marker. I just don't like the white when it's a black paper. I don't like to see the white edges. It helps the black to pop just a little bit more. So I'm gluing these down now on my background. Alright, so on my design I have these triangles that I cut out. So my triangles were not equilateral triangles. They had two sides equal, and I think the base was a little bit wider. So you see me flipping these triangles around to figure out which way they should be. My OCD brain just couldn't stand looking at triangles that weren't quite right. So my tip to you is make sure if you do this that your triangles have equal sides all around, so you're not having to flip them one way or another. So I'm gluing down my triangles on here on the background, and once I have some of them glued down, I'm going to go do my machine stitching to outline some of these triangles. I do like on my black pattern papers and like some of the darker blues to go around the edges with a black marker just to help define them better. So you did see me do that earlier. Alright, so this layout is actually a lift of a layout that I did a couple years ago. So Pink Fresh Studios had a collection called Escape the Ordinary, so maybe you'll remember that collection from then. Anyway, I love this background pattern page, and I did a layout with it, and I loved it. And so I thought for this guy layout that I was tasked to do, that I could use that triangle design again and make this work without using those frilly flowers and stuff for a guy layout. I've said, I think before, that this was really difficult to do. Do a guy layout with a collection that is mostly pinks and florals and stuff. But I pulled a couple different collections together and managed to do it. So now you see me covering up the little corner there of my photo. My photo is actually two photos on top of each other, and I did this in my photo editing software. So the base is a 4x6 photo, and then I plopped a 3.5 by 5 photo on top of that. And then I blended the edges a little bit so that you wouldn't be able to tell that I superimposed the 3.5 by 5 on top of the 4x6. So this gave me a little bit more room at the points of my triangle, but not enough on that left side. But moving this triangle over a little bit to help cover that up worked perfectly. So because Hey Hello didn't have anything that I wanted to use on a guy layout, I went and looked at the Sun and Fun collection, which is Pebbles' new summer collection that they just came out with. So they had these die-cut trees and a frog in their ephemera pack. So I thought those are perfect for this. I wanted them more outdoorsy die cuts to embellish. So the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to ground my layout by adding a strip of paper on the bottom. But I want to repeat my triangle shapes. So I'm cutting this pattern paper following the design of the patterns so that I have a triangle base for the bottom. So I like the darker edge there to help define those triangles on the bottom. So I'm going to trim this, but that leaves me with the other triangles, and I thought I need something at the top of my layout as well. So I didn't like just a plain strip of pattern paper at the top. It's too heavy. It was too much. So I ended up trimming the triangles from that extra sheet of paper to use a few of the triangles at the top. So these tags, the relax and the you are here, these are from the Jen Hadfield's Chasing Adventures collection from Pebbles. And this was an outdoorsy collection, and it was about a year ago, last year's collection. So I pulled these out from there, and they work perfect for this layout. So you can see I just want a few of these triangles up at the top because the peak of my photo is up high enough. I don't want to interfere with that. I just need something closer to the right side of my layout. So I'm going to get these glued on up here. I'm really liking how this is turning out. I love that strong triangle design for our guy page. And even for this outdoor adventure page, it is striking. I like it. Alright, so let's talk about my title. I am using some thickers from the Sun and Fun collection, and I like to put the edge on a ruler so I can move stuff around and decide where I want things. So I couldn't decide if I wanted more adventures for my title or adventure more for my title. So I have these letters. I'm using two different rulers, my big clear one and my little green one. And you can see I'm trying to decide more adventure or adventure more. And I actually went with adventure more for one reason. It mimicked that triangle shape, and I liked how that looked. So you can see I have the bigger word on the top and then the smaller word underneath. And it was perfect. It follows my triangle design. So there's one more thing that I thought my background was a little sparse. And so I went through the die cuts and I found these butterflies from the Hey Hello collection. Or they might be from the Sun and Fun collection. I think they're from the Sun and Fun collection. And it also has some acrylic stamps. And so rather than use the die cuts, I'm going to stamp some butterflies onto my background. And I'm using a dye-based ink to do this. So stamping around my title was a little difficult. You see me having to press a little harder, and that didn't leave for as crisp an image as I would have liked. So my advice from this process video: stamp on your background before putting the title on. Use equilateral triangles and make sure the sides are all equal so your OCD brain, like mine, doesn't keep flipping those triangles around. Do give the magicals a try. They are fun to use. I'm going to do some more experimenting with them, so you might see more process videos in the future. Thanks. Bye-bye.